Can you hear me? Yes. We have to use microphones for the cameras. Welcome to Best Debate Show, everyone. Let's hear some noise. We're so used to making noise at tournaments that we cannot go without it. We are very happy to be here together in person for the first time in a very long time with our partners and friends. We've missed this social connection that we haven't had for the past couple of years. We've had the tournaments, we've had the events, but we haven't been able to show off our work to our partners. And we're happy to be here at a live event where it doesn't involve training or you having to judge for hours and hours in a row. So thank you so much for being here. Today our focus is the debate category from our line of work at Best Foundation. In the past year we have focused a lot on debate, starting with the summer camp last year, where we had students learning how to know how to use critical thinking and how to improve their debate skills, which we all know that are very important in these times that we're going through, from pandemics and political tensions and so forth. Throughout the year, we have been focusing on doing trainings as well in the debate category. Students have been attending, learning, researching, planning for throughout the year with and implementing what they're learning in the tournaments and the competitions, which we know in return they go back in their schools and communities, and then they kind of expand the consciousness of this free and open debate and conversations in schools, which in return lead to our democratic and free society. So we're just very happy to be able to work on this with the students and with the partners. I would like to welcome a lot of our partners and guests today. We have new guests. We have guests from some law firms that we have invited and who will be also judging with us. We have from Delchev and Partners, welcome. And we also have some guests from New Balkans Law Office, from Kinsteller, who will be on the judge panel with us today. We're also happy to welcome our newest partner. I'm not sure if Maria is here, but I think someone from Trust for Social Achievement. Latest partners, we collaborated in the Student Leader Program. We, of course, have our friends from Fulbright Commission, who actually sponsored our summer camp last year, which was the first time we had the summer camp. They sponsor us and support us in many other ways. Of course, we have Desislava here from America for Bulgaria Foundation, who actually sponsored the American English teachers, the Fulbright, who are a big role for us in our tournaments and all the operations in the foundation, from being coaches to the teams and also being members of our management team member. And also, of course, the U.S. Embassy. I see Brent just arrived. Hi, Brent. U.S. Embassy sponsors actually the operations and the administration of, and all the operations and of us running the tournaments where the students come and compete. And last but not least, we have Single Step, of course, who are hosting us today at the steps, led by Ivan Dimov. So thank you all so much, really, for being our valued partner and future partners and sponsors. Without you, our work would not be possible for this group of future leaders that we have here. We have put some pamphlets for representative of companies who can see how companies can support us in the future. For individuals, of course, you see all our campaigns and global giving matching campaigns, so you can follow our page for that. I'll invite Ivan to say a few words, and then we'll guide you through how the show is going to go.
Thanks, Lina. So great to see you all, dear debaters, judges, guests, friends, partners. Welcome to the Steps, which is the home of Single Step Foundation, as Lina said, an organization which I founded about 6 years ago. I guess time flies very, very quickly. And the mission of the foundation is to provide comprehensive resources to the LGBTI community in Bulgaria. And it's so great to see faces in person. especially besties, and it's been such a long time since we've had an event like that. And I'm delighted to welcome you all in person. Now, let me tell you about my involvement with BEST. And it started, I believe it was 2017, at a tournament in Pazardzhik, where I was a judge. And to be honest, it was really, really love at first sight. I mean, the enthusiasm, the sense of community, a group of young people who are so excited to be part of something, critically thinking, enthusiastic young people. It was really quite a gem to find. And since then, I've been very involved with BEST, help with everything I can. I'm on the advisor board, and really, I love what you guys do. Now, I have to admit that I'm a bit biased, and I'm very biased towards debate. Very in the very beginning, when I found this format, I told the management team, just hit me with as much debate as you can, and I'll very gladly be a judge, because this ability, especially nowadays, at these crazy times, in times of mis and disinformation, critical thinking, reasoning, the ability to form an argument and have I guess, a civil discourse, is so critical, in our days. So I won't take more of your time. Good luck to both teams. Enjoy it. It's an amazing experience, as you know, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Now I'll introduce Julia Lynch, who is our debate coordinator. She will take over the show and start the debate. So enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone. And
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are very, very excited to have you, and we have some wonderful, wonderful students here that have been preparing for over a month in just this topic, in, I would say, years, to demonstrate their amazing debate abilities. Debate at the Best Foundation is actually what brought me to Bulgaria. I was so excited for the opportunity to support this program, support our students, and being able to share their abilities and their passion with you all is something that I could not have even dreamed of. So thank you all for being here, and thank you to our wonderful judging panel. Now I would like to introduce our teams and the motion, and then we will get started. So on my right side, we have the proposition team from Varna. We have Jackie, Kathy, and Desi, who will be representing for the proposition team. And to my left, from Burgos, we have Yasin, Denislav, and Milena. And today we have a very, very interesting motion, and I will read it to everybody, and we have a slightly longer informational slide, but the teams will even explain more about it. So today the debate will be about the motion, "This House supports the use of data as currency." And for some additional information, under the data as currency model, personal data has an economic value that can be bought, sold, and traded. In exchange for the use of their services, many companies collect and analyze the personal data of their users to advertise and sell the users' products and services in a more targeted manner. So again, the motion is this House supports this model of data as currency, with the proposition side supporting it and our opposition side opposing this motion. With that, I would love to welcome our first speaker from the Dr. Petr Baron School of Varna, Jackie Petrova.
Dear viewers, we live in a very technological world, which is becoming increasingly reliant on data. We as a proposition believe that the data can be used for good, and this is why we support the use of data as currency. I am the first speaker of the proposition, and I'll be presenting our team line, I'll provide a definition, and I'll provide our first two arguments. But first, why are we doing this? Well, we as the proposition believe that the data as currency model leads to an overall better customer experience for the data subject, customer or user, while it also benefits the companies that practice it. But first, let's define personal data. Personal data is any information that relates to an identified or identifiable living individual. Different pieces of information, which collected together can lead to the identification of a particular person, also constitute personal data. Names and emails addresses are personal data, location information, ethnicity, gender, biometric data, religious beliefs, web cookies, and even political opinions can also constitute personal data. Now, on to our first two arguments. First up, we believe that the use of personal data as currency benefits data subjects. It does that in three main ways. One, it indirectly makes services and products more financially accessible. Two, it allows for a better, more individual customer experience. And three, it leads to reinvestment in products and services improvement. One, how does the personal data as currency model make services and products more financially accessible? Well, let's look at Google, a company that has implemented this model. Google is well known for its popular search engine, email service, web browser, and various other online tools we use daily at work, at home, and on the go. What many don't think about, however, is that all of these services are free. So how does Google make its money? Well, the biggest source of income for Google is advertising. It accounts for 96% of its revenue. That means their whole business model is based on companies paying Google to advertise their products and services. They do this because Google's analysis of personal data is what allows for more successful targeted advertisement. According to a survey by Business Wire done in 2017, 85% of respondents stated they're influenced by personalized homepage promotions, and 92% of them stated that personalized shopping cart recommendations influence them to complete a purchase. Obviously, the monetization of personal data indirectly allows for many products and services like Google Maps, for example, to remain free, or at least more accessible to a wider variety of users. This is because, with services like Google having most of their profit coming from advertising products, these useful products are able to remain affordable for the customers, and companies advertise their products through Google exactly because of the algorithm that processes users' personal data and creates customer profiles for them. Therefore, they can be sure that the ads will reach their target audience, creating more profit for them. This means that companies that choose to advertise their products through Google get them exposed to the correct audience, which grants them more sales. That, in turn, generates a lot for revenue for Google. Again, majority of Google's revenue. And it allows more users to access certain services by making them free, or at least more financially accessible. Because imagine having to pay for Google products like Gmail, Google Maps, or even Google Classroom, which has been proven extremely useful during this pandemic. What would you do without them? Look for alternatives? What are the odds these alternatives use similar models to generate revenue? Would you pay for them then? Second up, it allows for a better, more individual customer experience, which benefits the user, obviously, because this personal data is being collected and analyzed to create an impersonal profile of each customer. And that way you can receive a unique experience which adheres to your lifestyle, needs, and preferences. Users can receive adequate and appropriate ads this way, which can help them buy something they want or need quickly and easily. So it suggests information and resources they might be interested in as well, and it leads to a better customer experience by offering them these useful products and information on the principle of targeted advertising. Say, for example, you listed yourself as an employed physician on Facebook. This information might be used to advertise medical equipment or materials of use to you, as well as health-related articles or resources. Nothing is forcing you to make a purchase, but if you need or want a product, this saves you the time and effort by predicting you might want it. This model caters to people's shopping habits, but also to their interests. Finally, it leads to reinvestment in products and services improvement. Because the money companies earn from this model is at least partially invested back to making the products and services even better for the customers. Of course it would. Because of how competitive and quickly changing the market is, companies constantly have to invest in innovation, improvement, and development of what they can offer. They get this opportunity for growth because of the profit generated by this successful business model, which includes monetizing personal data. This can mean that services will become more customizable, convenient, easier to use, smarter, and also more progressive. They add new options and features. This gives the users more possibilities and an even better user experience. Finally, our second argument. This model is not only beneficial for the data subjects, but also for the companies who practice it. Because the connection, analysis, and monetization of the personal data of customers is a huge source of income for many big companies, as I mentioned in 1A. Because services like Google, Facebook, Amazon, TikTok, Twitter, Spotify, etc. rely heavily on this advertisement business model for their profit. They're paid to use your data to promote you other companies' products. So big and thriving companies are more important to the economy because they have more financial resources to conduct research and develop new goods. They can offer more varied job opportunities and greater job stability, higher wages, and better health and retirement benefits. That is according to the New South Wales government. And the opposite is true, because if they decided to abolish this model, they would have to change their entire business model, obviously, which can cost them a lot of money. That would impact their development, that would impact their innovation opportunities, and the size of the company even. They would lose lots of customers and profit. Therefore, the companies who use this model currently can't even abolish it if they wanted to. And spoiler, obviously, they don't. It gives them a lot of money with which they can do very good things. For example, improve their products, etc. And these difficulties and changes in the development of larger companies introduced by changing the business model, abolishing this use of personal data as currency, will very negatively impact the economy and the customers as well. And with that, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for that wonderful speech. Next, we will hear from the first opposition speaker for an 8-minute speech. Audience, you may start hearing some bells from my phone going forward. These are to indicate to the speakers when they can start asking points of information, so don't be alarmed.
All right, I think I'm about ready to start. So, hello everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the opposition side of the debate. And without wasting any amount of time, let's just start with our counters to the first speaker of the opposition. So, first off, I would like to state that most of the arguments, first and second, that were introduced, align directly to our second and third arguments. So I'll leave to our second speaker to further in-depth counter the arguments that were presented. However, there are two things that I would like to counter in my speech. First one is the physician example that the first speaker of the proposition gave. It basically said that the physician would be recommended medical products that would be, easily accessible, right? So you enter your Facebook feed and you have many different medical products up for grabs, pretty much. You can just put them in your cart and buy them and boom, call it a day. Okay, what exactly guarantees that these products are either the best for the price, the cheapest, or the best on the market? There is really no guarantee what exactly these services that are giving these medical supplies have paid for Google's information, or Facebook's information in this case. Further on, the system falling apart, right? The first speaker of the proposition mentioned that many of these systems guarantee, or at least these sites use these systems of buying and selling data to push themselves forward without having to pay anything or without having their service paid for the people. Okay, yeah, and banning this in turn, or completing our side of the motion, would mean that these services would go down, right? Well, I would like to argue that they would not, because they are giant tech companies. They are monoliths. I will talk later in my speech about how Facebook is being sued on many accounts and how many things are happening right now in the world. And still Facebook is standing strong. They haven't lost too much. Why? Well, because they're a monopoly, they're a monolith. They cannot go down just due to a service change. So they don't have, one, if they were to change, well, they would have the money to stay alive for long enough to actually welcome another service model, which I will mention in a second. Or two, they could fall down as they are a business. A monopoly is eventually going to fall down. That is just how they work. So one day Facebook will fall because, for example, face recognition is found on their side and you need to take it down, as I'll talk about later, or something else that's unconstitutional. Well, they will fall. They're a business. They're not immortal. They shouldn't be just infeasible, right? So now let's start with the actual arguments. First off, well, let's start with our intro. The transaction, and this is not an argument, I'm just stating something that will be the basis for our entire side, as we'll be making something of a narrative, if you will, so it's easier for you to follow. We will start the entire process of a person who, let's say, went on Facebook or another site that uses these ad preferences, and we will go through their entire narrative and story throughout our speeches. So, as the introduction, the proposition may argue at some point that you have a choice to accept cookies or a choice to accept this targeted advertising. No, you do not. And let me explain why. So, what exactly happens when you want to make a Facebook account? Why are you making this Facebook account? Well, either one, you have the drive to post something important to your friends and family, or two, you are obligated by your business, your job, your school. So what does that mean? You do not have a choice. You're being peer pressured effectively into making this choice. So let's say your workplace wants you to make a Facebook account. Well, you will make a Facebook account. Why? Because they may be posting important information on their site, or they may have a group in Messenger or WhatsApp. You do not have a choice, otherwise you are excluded from your workplace or school. So where's the choice there? Alternatively, if you do want to post something on social media without being related to a school or workplace, well, that's pretty cool, but where are you gonna go? Because as I said, those are monopolies, those are monoliths. You don't have anywhere else to go. Twitter also has a targeted advertising. So where are you really going to go to post your funny cat pictures? Nowhere. So, with that introduction, I would like to state what exactly are the dangers of this non-choice that you're making. First off, data leaks. Can we really trust these companies, as our first argument states, with our data that they're taking? Well, here's a quote. A harsh dose of reality is that no solution can claim to be a surefire or foolproof way to solve data breaches. Alex Pezzold, writing for securitymagazine.com. So, here's a funny story. I at least found it very humorous while I was researching. An internal Facebook email leaked has reviewed its strategy for dealing with the leaking of account details from 533 million users. Let's check out what they have to say. It suggests the social network expected problems like these and that they said they were a quote-unquote normal occurrence. That the media attention would die down and they would make limited statements about the issue. Later on, it was found that sites like LinkedIn and Clubhouse had also had data scraping in their business model. By the way, the source BBC article from 2021. What does that really say about that data? Is that good marketing and easily findable, which again, second speaker will talk about it, products, are they really worth your data being exposed? And if you're wondering what exactly this data exposure may be, well, let me give you some arguments, some examples. How about we look at this? MyHeritage. Do you know what MyHeritage is? It's a site where you put in all of your personal information and, you know, birth date, blah, 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 where you live, address, age, number, name, everything. And they tell you where exactly you came from, MyHeritage. It was data breached and 92 million user accounts were identified. Among the lost data is everything that I mentioned. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? Uber, you know, the app that you use to call someone to drive you back home, yeah? That was also breached. 600,000 drivers, 57 million users. That's pretty harsh. How about this? Equifax data breach was nothing short of a disaster. This was a thing that was covered very, very exclusively in American media in 2021. Equifax is a place where you put in information such as your social security number, aka again in our terms, driver's license numbers, and credit card information. Isn't that just hilarious? You're trading off all that precious timing looking online for the exact medical supplies that you want for your entire credit card information being leaked online, or some random hacker somewhere data breaching it and just taking it. And what are these sites doing about it? Nothing. All right, before my time runs out, I will just mention briefly about Texas. Texas recently in 2022, January of 2022, did a little lawsuit of Facebook for $1 trillion for taking face information illegally against their state rules and assumedly selling it. They have settled this lawsuit for $650 million. Right. This is nothing to Facebook. This will not take them down. And still, this data is being used. They are still taking that face data. Who is going to stop them, as they're a monopoly? And of course, to finish my speech, I will just mention that our second speaker will be further in depth talking about how there are several different problems with this, aside from data breaches, which are already common enough. Thank you for listening, and have a good rest of the debate.
Thank you for that speech. We will next hear from the second speaker of the proposition.
So, dear panel, dear audience, dear opposition team, and dear teammates, I am the second speaker of the proposition team, and in my speech I will start off by some brief rebuttal of the points made by the first speaker of the opposition team, and then I will move on to further expanding our first and second argument presented by our first speaker, and presenting to you our third argument that addresses exactly the points about data leaks and data breaches. So, first of all, the point about data leaks, this is not necessarily something that comes from the data as currency model, but it's a problem of people trying to exploit companies and that personal information they're storing, and companies not protecting it well enough, which will further on in the future stop being such a major issue, as per our third argument that I'm going to introduce in my speech. Actually, most of the things that were mentioned by the first speaker of the opposition are directly countered by our third argument, so I will move on to expansion of our first and second argument, and then I will address the main points that he talked about. So, our first speaker talked about our first argument that introduces benefits for the data subjects, such as making products more financially accessible. And according to a survey done in 2018 by the Digital Advertising Alliance, only 8% of customers would download most of their apps again if they were paid. Many companies, such as Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Amazon, Spotify, Twitter, and many more use this exact business model. And those are companies that, those are platforms that bring people together and create communities. And we believe that people, as of now, are better off with having these services and with having them for free. Another point introduced by our first speaker was about having a more individual content and better customer experience for the customers. In the same survey commissioned by the Digital Advertising Alliance, a margin of 5-1 Americans prefer seeing mobile ads that are relevant to their interests. And let's take an example. Logging out of your profile on, for example, YouTube or Netflix or Instagram would mean you're just seeing random content that you're not interested in, content that you might not even want to see, and or content that you might not care about. And it is proven by this exact same survey that people don't want that. And talking about our second argument, that this model also benefits the companies who are practicing it. Assuming that changing this model would be possible, that abolishing it would be possible, it would be in the form of not having targeted advertisement, which would be less effective, and it would result in a huge profit loss. As per the survey that our first speaker stated, for Google, 96% of their income comes from this same targeted advertisement, and losing this much profit will result in getting rid of all of those benefits for the customers: the financially accessible products, the individual customer experience, the investment of innovation and improvement. And those are things that people want. Those are things that people need. And by getting rid of them, companies would also lose customers. With that, they will lose even more profit. And this creates this vicious cycle, and it would eventually result in an economical collapse. Now, moving on to our third argument. I'm sorry. Our third argument talks about the fact that various laws and policies are being implemented and have successfully minimized the risks with the data as currency model, and those risks will only become more and more minimal in the future. This happens in two ways. Firstly, by imposing laws of regulation in order to protect people's personal data, and secondly, by educating people on their rights and giving them better control of their data. So, on to our first point. Imposing laws of regulation in order to protect people's personal data. These laws and policies keep emerging and improving all over the world, and aside from addressing the user's rights, these laws make for a higher data security standards and encourage companies to improve their cybersecurity. An example of a law like that is the GDPR, which is the European version of such thing, and it was implemented 3 years ago. It addresses the rights of data subjects and the responsibilities of data collectors, and it presses every business, government, and data collector to adequately protect, process, and store data of the European Union's resident. All organizations across industries are obliged to adopt procedures and policies to be compliant with this law. And this isn't only happening in the European Union. We have similar laws in Canada, Brazil, South Africa, India, China, and many, many more countries. And onto our second point of this argument, educating people on their rights and giving them better control of their data. So, despite the users in favor of the data as currency model and its benefits, if one wishes to give out their personal data to not to give out their personal data to algorithms, they can usually limit what data a service receives and how long they've got for it. Or if that's not possible, they could simply not use a service. There was a point made about peer pressure, but it is your own choice after all whether to have a Facebook account or not. And if they consider their personal data a higher priority than using said service, there are many laws in place to protect the user's personal data. For example, the EU data collectors are obligated to provide data subjects with, among other info, who, why, and for how long is using their data, as well as what exactly they use and what rights the data subject has, in an easily accessible, transparent, and intelligible way. Knowing this, the users have the rights to access, reciprocation, restriction, and erasure of that info, to name a few, depending on the specific law of their country. With this, users have a wide range of control over their personal data and how it's being used. They have access to the information needed to weigh the risks and benefits for themselves. And even with the supposed risks and downsides of the data as currency model, countless laws and acts are being constructed and implemented all over the world. These are continued to be implemented. The ones that I named are not the only ones. In order to grant individuals a choice whether to participate as a data subject or not, and to what extent. In addition to many services already allowing for more freedom by themselves, like, for example, Google. And with that, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for that speech. Next, we will hear from the second speaker of the opposition.
I also ask just for a brief second to set up the timer and everything. Okay, I'm just about ready in 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, I am the second speaker of the opposition team, and without further ado, I will begin by just addressing the things that the second speaker of the proposition has mentioned. So I won't waste much time on this since we have a lot of arguments to present. However, I find a very significant problem with their reasoning, and they're looking at the world as a very pitch perfect place where everyone has every right to do everything they can, and when every company respects everyone's rights without fear of their profits. However, that is not the case. Our first speaker has mentioned this. He gave a quote of a leaked email in which Facebook basically stated that, well, there were some data breaches. However, we are willing to overlook that because we're going to lose some profit. They also continue to actuate on the fact that there will be more individually oriented content, and people will see more ads and they'll go into the site, very eager to see those ads. But do you go to Facebook to see ads, or do you go to Facebook to chat with your friends or post a picture? So I find that reasoning rather invalid, and a big part of the second speaker's speech was the laws and regulations. However, those regulations and laws, as we said again, are in a very pitch perfect scenario, which wouldn't really work in the real world. Let's say, for example, your data is compromised. First of all, you would hardly know it. Second of all, would you really stop using Facebook and stop those advantages and needs, should I say, which our first speaker talked about, to just go out and maybe sue the company or go to the European Supreme Court to have your information taken off of Facebook? No, you wouldn't, because it's more important to you to keep your job rather than your information. But this underlines an even bigger problem. People are more concerned, about their job than their data. But does that mean that data is not important? No, it is very important. And companies are using that data to spin a narrative on people without them noticing, which is the second argument that I will now introduce and our first speaker briefly mentioned. The way companies use our data is actually dividing us silently and irreversibly. We all are aware of the effect that media consumption has on our choices, on our views of the world, and the effect that disinformation can have on people. We're seeing this as we speak. Many people are being disinformed about current topics. And this is also helped by this targeted advertising model. How? Well, we know our personal data is collected and we are given ads that are, more suited to us. And the proposition also stated that this, in turn, makes us see more things that we like, more things that we agree with, and so on and so forth. However, doesn't that limit our worldview? Isn't that sort of a textbook example of an echo chamber? When we see only things we agree with and refuse to look at the other side, we are basically fed the same information over and over until we become basically polarized. It's a tool that is used to polarize our society. And the root cause of all these issues, as I said, can be traced to the fact that consumers have a very isolated experience online. We call this a state of epistemic fragmentation, where the information available to each individual is limited to what is targeted at them, without the opportunity to compare with others in shared spaces. As I said, this creates a sort of echo chamber because of, yeah?
Yes, my microphone is on. Yeah, use of information can mean arguments and points from the other side, no?
No, because with targeted advertising, they're using the keywords you're searching for, like Trump 2020 campaign, Trump benefits of Trump's leadership, so on and so forth. And those ads will be targeted at you, aiming to push more agenda of Trump. And Trump this, Trump that. Or this is just a narrow example of how this works, but that's inherently the problem with it. You won't see, if you keep searching things about Trump, you won't see ads about Biden. That's what I'm getting at. And I believe I've been more than thorough on this argument, so I will just quickly jump onto our third argument, which is that consumers are basically becoming the product. If the service is free, you are the product. This is an often quoted phrase, and it's more than true in our day and age, because one of the things that the proposition kept on mentioning is that company profits this, company profits that, and company profits will go down if they don't have personalized ads. They still will have ads. Companies will still profit. People will still pay for ads. It's just that, benefiters of companies have gotten way too accustomed to having targeted ads, and we believe that that should not be the case. They should get used to ads being non-targeted, non-polarizing, and non-invasive. Yes, go ahead.
Users do have the opportunity to opt for ads that aren't targeted, and the model still exists. They can choose not to participate in it in that sense.
Yeah, but how many people will actually do that? Do you go on Facebook and just, oh my God, this is a personalized ad. I'm gonna immediately go to the settings in a very probably unnoticeable box in the bottom left corner and disable my personalized ads. And Facebook will ask me 55 times if I want to disable my personalized ads, because we use personalized data to better your user experience and better our profits, not your user experience actually. So I believe that's enough of a counter for that. And okay, that's so what I meant by us becoming the product is, in a search to get more profit, these companies are undermining our basic rights, which our first speaker talked about, and they're also undermining their concern for us. These personalized ads are very geared towards impulsive behavior. If something is so neurally networked to and geared towards your desires, you are more than likely to purchase it. And this can be very consequential for people that cannot really afford to purchase it. But if you have those shoes you've been wanting for 5 months and have been searching for them every single day, targeted at you every single day, and you see them every single day, you're probably gonna buy them even if you don't have the money for it. And that's another issue that this model relays. And as I say, I don't have time. I'll thank you for your attention.
Thank you for that speech. Next, we will hear from the third speaker of the proposition.
Good afternoon to our dear judges, to my fellow teammates of the proposition, and to our rivals on the opposition team. I'm going to start with some brief rebuttal on some points made by the opposition. Then I'm going to move on to restating some of the things that our first and second speaker have already established, and I'm going to move on to the clash points of this debate. Onto the first point made by the opposition team. This choice whether to accept cookies and to give your personal data is actually a non-choice, according to them. In that sense, they mentioned that other than the drive to participate, you might be faced with an obligation to participate in this model, for example, by your workplace or by your educational institution. And to this, depending on where you are, who you are, could you get into another school or find another job, is a question that I would like to present to the opposition side. Other than this, this non-choice that those institutions present you with is actually something that they can only do if they can ensure your data safety. I'll get to you in a second. This is, I believe, a direct clash with our third argument that our second speaker mentioned, which is about the laws and the policies that are currently being imposed more and more every day in order to protect users' data and make sure that this model is safe for them. I would ask our judges to not be swayed by these words, by words of fear, by words of that we're going to get exploited, that this is all against our will. And you also put some questions forward, like, who will stop these big tech companies? They won't never change. But again, we believe that these laws, these things that are happening every day are something that is actually going to make change. Now, I would like to present you with some interesting information. If I can only find it in my... Yeah. So, according to the US Federal Trade Commission, Facebook had to face a record-breaking $5 billion penalty because of a data leak scandal, I would say. Other than this, Facebook also had to submit new restrictions and a modified corporate structure that will hold the company accountable for the decisions it makes about its users' privacy. To settle these charges, I will get to in a second, I'm sorry. So, to the question of what has changed since then, Facebook has suspended tens of thousands of apps as a result of an investigation into its software developer ecosystem that was launched after the scandal. We believe that this is more than proof of change. We want to also restate that this is not only about ads, this is about the content that you receive, this is about the interactions you have with certain people, this is about all the kinds of recommendations that these apps are giving you. Onto the second argument that they made about how user data is dividing us silently and irreversibly by misinformation and feeding us the same information. Some points about misinformation can be tackled by Facebook's fact-checking algorithms, because Facebook is, again, an example both teams have been using a lot. And also, like I just stated in this example, Facebook faced a great penalty for a non-ethical use of users' private information. Onto the third point that you made about consumers becoming the product, our POI about how essentially you can disable this if you are against it was not really addressed in a proper way, because in your first argument you talk about a non-choice, and then you say when we have the choice, it's so hard to, get into the settings and turn it off. If you really cared, if this is really important to you, you would go to the settings and turn it off. At least that's what we believe. I would like to now move on to some clash points. Our first argument about the benefits of personal data of this model, of personal data as currency for its data subjects. We presented this in 3 points, and it was, I guess, essentially addressed by how you may get ads for certain products, but you wouldn't know how good or how financially accessible they are. Again, these ads are suggesting you something. You are not forced to buy it. It's just in front of you. You can always, take a step forward and look it up, search it up. This is why we live in an age of information, an age where everything is just a click away. On to our second argument, which was about how this model is beneficial for the companies which practice it, which is also a reason for them not to abolish it. You stated that, again, they want, because they're a monolith, and this is their business model, which I believe you agree with this just as much as we do. However, the point of clash comes here where your third argument believes that indeed we as consumers are becoming the product of these companies. However, again, in our first and second argument, we try to prove that this relationship that users have with companies is beneficial for both sides. Our third argument about various laws and policies that are constantly being implemented and have successfully, by the way, minimized this model's risks. Again, this works in 2 ways, not only with laws that protect users' data, but also with laws and policies that educate people on what rights they have under their data so that they can make a choice themselves. This is kind of a clash with the first argument about the non-choice, and also wasn't really addressed, other than the fact that the opposition apparently lives in a world where change is impossible, where laws are not going to change anything, and where these companies will never be held accountable for their actions. However, we do not believe in this world. We, yes, please.
This policy making and making data more secure and so on and so forth has not stopped data breaches, and Malena will give more examples on this. How do you address this? And it will not stop data breaches, as we have said in our first speech.
So what I'm going to say about that is that as almost all businesses participate in this process of collecting and processing personal data, all organizations across different industries are obliged to adopt certain procedures, policies, and systems to become compliant with these laws. In that sense, these laws are not directly going to stop data breaches. However, they are going to minimize them, and they are going to help cybersecurity of these companies be improved by forcing them to do so by law. So while, yes, they can't directly stop somebody from hacking a company or potential data breaches from happening, they work towards minimizing them and accounting for them so that the companies who are responsible face penalties for that and are forced to change. Other than that, I think, yes, we would like to again restate and stress the fact that as long as users are, we believe that users have the choice, and as long as they're educated and as long as laws are in place to protect them, this is a model that is going to benefit everybody. With this, I would like to conclude my speech.
Thank you for that speech. Next, we will hear from the third speaker of the opposition.
Okay, I believe I am ready. So in 3, 2, 1. Hello everyone, my name is Malena Maucheva. I am the third speaker of the opposition team today. I would like to greet each and every single one of you. So without losing any time, I will just briefly explain to you how my speech will go. So basically, I will provide you guys with an overview of the whole entire debate so far, as we've only got reply speeches left. I will provide you with an overview and basically comment on everything every single person has said by now. It's a lot. So be prepared. Starting off with the first speech of the proposition team. The first speaker provided us with their first argument that data collecting provides us with better customer experience and it benefits the companies. So, yes, but at what cost do we get this better customer experience? And also, I would like to note that it's not necessarily a better customer experience. I will provide you with some information that rebuts that, and this information that I will provide you with is also correlated to other clash points in this debate, which I will also mention later. Basically, Facebook and other social media sites that track your data, they can collect information about you even without you directly knowing that they're doing that. So if you're using the Facebook app, basically, even if you do not turn on location tracking, they still have ways to track you. As there is a quote, even when we explicitly exercise all location controls, Facebook still learns the locations we visit and exploits it for ads. Basically, the issue of privacy can become particularly acute when there's presumption or wish for confidentiality. Say during a therapist visit or at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. You do not want these people to know that about you because they may use it in a way that can harm you. Moving on, I will expand on that later. So then the proposition team moved on to say that companies that choose to advertise get more money, and the companies that pay for ads also get more profit in return. How is that beneficial for the customer? Well, I do not think this is a valid standing to say that because the customer does not get anything out of it. Yes, they get a unique experience, they said. While unique and designed and personalized for you, it can also be harmful to you, as I already mentioned with the information I provided you. They said that it leads to product services improvement. They gain the opportunity to improve their products by the profit they make. They can make enough profit even without, what they get from ads. If their product is good and it is beneficial to the customer, they will want to improve. More customers will buy them. They will improve even without ads. It's not the only thing that gives them profit. Later in my speech, if I have time, thank you. Then their second argument is that it gives the companies a lot of money to do very good things. How would you guarantee that they're using it for good things? There is no correlation to things. Then moving on to the second speech of the proposition team, they refuted some of our arguments by saying that data leaks don't come from the data currency idea, and that companies can just protect, their data better. No, they cannot. Hackers are tremendous in their work. Right now, with the Russia-Ukraine situation going on, the anonymous hackers have threatened Russia, and they have entered some of their databases, and they are threatening them to expose even more information about them. So hackers can be tremendous. They are genius in good and bad ways. So we cannot really ensure the privacy of these users. They also mentioned that only 8% of customers would download their apps again if they are paid. Well, they can get their profits by, as they mentioned, I believe, Spotify. Spotify gets their profit from Spotify Premium. Basically, without Premium, you get ads in between your songs, obviously. Later, if I have time, thank you. Get ads in between your songs. You cannot play songs in a certain position or something. But with Premium, you can do anything you want. Also, Discord makes its profit from Nitro Discord, which grants you certain gifts and, different extras that you don't really need. But if you want to, you can pay for them. And lots of people pay for it. I can assure you, I have Spotify Premium. It's a pain, Then they mentioned that you might see content that you don't care about. Do you log into Facebook or Instagram to look at ads? I find it so annoying. This plushy mouse thingy, I'm not sure what it is, from Sensei has been in my Facebook for 3 weeks. It is so annoying. It's not cute at all. I really don't like it. So even though I may search up, plushies and toys, I may not like this one, and I don't log into Facebook to look at it. Then their third argument is that there are privacy laws implemented, like the GDPR, and we can also educate people on their rights. Are companies actually honest with you about those laws? Yeah, they say we have introduced this law. Yes, we are going to keep this law. Blah 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 blah. Are they actually doing it? As our first speaker said, with the Texas lawsuit going on, Facebook collects your face identification data without even telling you it is collecting it. And this is just one proven thing that has been happening. God knows how many other things they are doing that they do not state that they do, and we do not know about it. But yeah, we have the GDPR. Yeah, I'm safe. My data is not going to get leaked. I hope not. I don't have any money for that. Then, moving on to the third speech of the proposition team, they have stated that our words are words of fear. Aren't you all afraid that if your credit card information gets leaked, your social security number again gets leaked? I wasn't 18 until a few weeks ago, and I could not take like a bank credit, but now I can, and I would be scared if my AGNA comes out. So there are words of logical fear. Fear is not a bad thing at all. Fear protects us. Fear is a reflex of the human body, and always, be it physical or psychological, fear is a good thing. Panic is not. But fear is, because with fear you can protect yourself. Then the third speaker moved on to saying that Facebook has suspended certain apps. This definitely not enough in my opinion. And that Facebook have a fact-checking algorithm, and this helps stop misinformation. But see, check this. What if a media that posts misinformation topics, what if they pay Facebook for their ads? Will Facebook do a fact-checking algorithm on them? I really don't think so. If they get profit, they won't. Then this mentioned that you have the choice to disable cookies. Again, how are you sure that they will be disabled? You don't think they're collecting your Face ID? Well, they are. They can also choose to not disable your cookies. They also mentioned that these apps are suggesting you something, you're not obligated to buy it. Temptation exists, as our second speaker said. You may not have enough money to buy it, but if I see good-looking shoes, I will spend my last cent on them. And that's not necessarily good for my personal finance, but Facebook does it to me. Then they mentioned that you make a choice yourself. No, you really need it. And then they mentioned that we live in a world where change is impossible. No, we live in a world that has shown us that the people collecting our data are not going to change. They have shown us in no way that they are going to change, and they have shown us in no way that they care about our data. They haven't shown us this. And with that, I would like to end my speech as I have no time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And that concludes our constructive part of the debate. And now we will move into shorter reply speeches, starting with the opposition reply speaker.
Here I would ordinarily say that I need a minute to revise this, but unfortunately I don't have that time. So if you'll just give me a second, as the other speakers had. All right, let's begin with the fourth speech of the opposition, if you're all prepared. These are the four speeches. We're ending the entire debate by summarizing everything in an emotional twist, so get ready for this. So, as our first speaker of the opposition mentioned, we have been trying to assert a narrative throughout all of our speeches. And that narrative I will now recite to you in a very poetic speech, if you might consider. So, let's just start with the introduction, as promised. Our introduction stated that the choice that you may have while signing on to social media or accepting cookies does not exist. Why did we say that exactly? What was the argumentation there? If I do remember correctly, it was something that went like, let's say you have a dream job, as the proposition said. You may have a job that you like, and it may have Facebook attached to it, and you may not want to use Facebook because of the targeted advertising, the data leaks, and everything else. Sure, you may just leave that job. Okay. What if it's your dream job? What if it's your perfect job? I assume the people in this room, our current judges, everyone, has a job that they say is their favorite. Would you really leave that? Even if you were threatened by all this? Would you really leave that job? Even if there were data leaks attached to it or anything else? No, you wouldn't. So, instead of leaving the job, why not just try to change the system, as we as the opposition have been trying to do? Why not just try to change things in the world instead of keeping them the same? And of course, we also have the alternative that, cookies will straight up not let you use their site if you don't accept cookies. Okay, now getting on to our arguments and of course the continuation of this whole proposal. Our data is not safe. That is what we have concluded as the opposition throughout our entire debate. And we stated it bluntly at the start of the speeches. Data leaks are a very prominent thing. Again, millions of users, billions in some cases, being leaked, all their information. Let me just list all the various things that can be leaked in a site, and you will never know about it. Unless, well, you blatantly understand by someone leaking your data online. How about this? Credit card information, social security number, driver's licenses, name, address, phone number, email, passwords, face data. How about that face data? Texas, as we said in our first speech, sued Facebook, or at least tried to sue Facebook, for collecting face data of their citizens, which was, again, unconstitutional. The proposition did say that such things would never be allowed, that there's a law in the EU, in China, in Canada, everywhere about this. What has it done against this? This lawsuit was settled for measly millions from Facebook's billions upon billions of giant cash thrones that they have. What does that mean to them? It means nothing. And we'll talk about later, of course, what exactly this means for the future. But for now, even if there is no data leak yet, what will happen to you in this repetitive cycle? Well, our second speaker talked about that. First, the division. Recently, at least I've noticed that a lot of people have become radicalized. Either they think one thing or the other thing. It's just the extreme. They either think that Trump is the best thing to ever exist, or that Biden is the best thing to ever exist, for example. Or that Ukrainian crisis, for example. Why? Why is there no middle ground? Because of this isolation from different opinions. Facebook just recommends you one thing, one thing, one thing, one thing. Sites just recommend you one thing, one thing, one thing. Google just recommends you things that you want to see. And that's what radicalizes you. You just say, this is the only thing that will ever work, without really seeing the benefits of the other side, as debates work, usually. Our second speaker, again, talked in depth. Third, consumers become the product. Yes, they do. Malena gave a lot of examples in her speech about how I don't want to buy these shoes, but I will eventually buy them, even if it's bad. And what did she say? Facebook is doing this to me. It's like a victim of a hate crime. Because that is what it is. That is what is happening. And of course, finally, within the last 10 seconds of my speech, the inevitability. This will keep escalating. These reforms will not work. And the monopolies will not go down if we do not do something about this. And that is what the opposition, we have tried to prove during the entire debate. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good rest.
Thank you for that closing speech from side opposition. Lastly, we will hear from our proposition reply speaker.
Hello to everyone who's watching. I am the reply speaker of the proposition team, and I would like to start off my speech by thanking everyone for this wonderful debate. It was a pleasure for our team and hopefully for the opposition team as well. However, I would like to bring your attention to the fact that what the opposition is dictating here is a world of fear of technology. And there is a difference between being fearful and being cautious. We're not against caution. We have proven to you that you can be cautious and choose what data you give to every certain data collector. That is caution. But what the opposition is encouraging you to be is not cautious. It's being paranoid, and paranoia is not the feeling you want to be experiencing in a world where technology is something that's surrounding us everywhere. They have consistently, in all four of their speeches, exaggerated the gravity of this whole situation. Technology and the use of the data as currency model can be and is being used for good. We live in a very digital world, as even our first speaker stated by beginning her speech. And the last few years have proven this. In a time where we essentially need services like Google Classroom to go on with our day-to-day lives, most people can't afford to lose that due to fear of potential data breaches that, with the many laws that are being imposed, are less and less likely to happen to you. Technology will develop, and it will develop according to people's needs, people's interests, people's opinions, and obviously in compliance with the international laws. They can't simply keep on breaking the law. That's insane. Nobody would do that. Things are getting better exactly because of these same laws that we've brought up in all of our speeches, the GDPR and the many equivalents of that same law in many different countries. With change, things are getting better and people are being more and more educated. They have a choice. They get to pick those benefits if they want them, if they decide that this is what they need. This model is used by all of the companies all of the time, and for this reason it is becoming increasingly safer, because if it wasn't, it would have been abolished by now. These we've managed to prove that this model benefits data subjects by giving them more accessible products, more accessible services that we need with this current life situation. We don't really want them, we actually need them. We've managed to prove that this, giving them this better, more individual customer experience, is important to them, and it leads to many improvements of like many products and many services, and it is also being beneficial for the companies, which aren't always the big bad guy, and they don't need to be perceived as that when they provide you with something that nowadays in a digital world you need. With the laws, with the current world situation, we believe that the data as currency model can be and is being used for good. With that, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for both teams. This concludes the debate. So now the panel will take 10 minutes to discuss their opinions and then make a decision on who the winner of the debate will be. And so you could take a break, 10 minutes, and we'll be back to announce the winner. So we won't delay you further. First of all, I want to thank both teams again. Small gifts for both of you before we announce the winner. Here you go, and your coaches as well have some things inside, so don't forget them. Okay, I believe we have the results. So, Julia, would you like to announce who our winner of the debate is?
I had to figure it out myself first. Well, congratulations to both teams. You did an incredible job, and thank you to our panelists as well for judging for us. And the votes are in on a unanimous decision. The winner of the Debate Showcase 2022 is Team Opposition from Burgos. And I believe we have some medals for you as well. And as a little extra bonus, we also had our judges recommend the top speaker of the debate, which was voted to be Milena. So congratulations.
Okay, thank you. I would like to invite Ms. Desislava from AVF to please provide them the medals. And then, thank you very much. Yes. There you go. Thank you, everyone. Please join us upstairs for the social hour. So, thank you and have a good evening.